So Dan, this is a pretty elaborate setup. Do you have to use this expensive hobby equipment?
No, actually, you can use and improvise a lot of different things just on the fly. To give you an idea of what we've got here, this is just a couple of cheap table covers, plastic covers that'll cover a 4x8 board. I think we paid about $1.25 for each one of them, two of them, so it's double layered. Then you've got duct tape in different colors to turn around and simulate different aspects of it. So for this, we've got green that's simulating forestry through most of the table itself. We did have a lot of these little extra trees. So yeah, I mean, why not take advantage of them and use them? But again, it's what you have available. To give you another idea, I mean, the buildings are a personal collection. They're HO scale, match the trains. But to be quite honest, if we didn't have them, I would just turn around and buy some cheapo Legos. I mean, this is another thing from the dollar store. And put this together. It was a total of $1.25, and actually I had spare parts left over, to make even more stuff. So you just are trying to create something that's a visual representation of it, so that when somebody's looking at it, they can index off of it. They can develop a common operational understanding of it in relation to everybody else that's also going through the exercise. Another couple of points. We have a simulated river that's going on through here, and this is just your blue masking tape that you'd use for painting something. Another use, we've got some brown tape up here, simulating dirt compacted areas. Just a dirt improved road, and then for the hard asphalt and everything else, we're just using 3/4 inch electrical tape. So when we're done with all this stuff, we turn around and take all the heavy components. We can turn around and peel the rest of this up and just throw it away.
Well, you've got an elaborate scenario that you told your participants about, and you've got forestry, and it's a mile away, and now you've got the rail yard, and then you've got the beginnings of the little town. Is this an accurate representation of something? Does it have to be something people know about?
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be built to scale. Again, the people that are involved, if you turn around and explain to them, look, this is not a scale representation, that the fire is identified at the far end of the board, but the reality is that it's a mile and a half up. You give them those indexes, they adapt to it. But it's just a matter of making sure that everybody understands it, so that they don't turn around and start looking at it and saying, oh, the fire's closer than not. And it's again one of those things where there's going to be a fairly open discussion as far as what's going on. But the nice thing about this thing is that you can actually compensate for artificialities. A lot of exercises are dealing with what are the prevailing winds, and with this, I mean, we just have a simple flag. So what we do is we have this thing sitting here, and that's the indicator of what the wind direction is. So telling somebody that the winds are predominantly from the southwest or from the northeast or whatever else really isn't necessary, because they've got a visual reference they're able to work off of all the time. The more you can do things like that and make it easier for the participant to understand, from a layout perspective of what's going on, the better. But again, you don't have to have scale representation. You don't have to have exact models. We're simulating a diesel refueling point for rail on this one, and it's actually a gas station that we just happen to have. So you can improvise a lot of stuff along those. A water tower, I can take a roll of tape and 3 pens or pencils, tape them on the inside to function as legs, and just set it up there. And if I really need to turn around and provide clarification, like we were doing this earlier, put water on it. So now everybody understands that, yeah, it's a water tower. And of course, this one's going to be huge, but again, if they are familiar with the location that's being described, And even if they don't, it's still going to be something where they're going to have a representation as far as where things are at and how things work together. So,
Well, you mentioned the participants, but the people that were participating in the exercise would have their ICS cards, but they don't have a script. How do you get them to participate?
oh, we're not looking for a script. I mean, in a lot of cases, exercises are designed with a preconceived idea of what the end result is going to be. With the card sets, it's hyper dependent on who actually shows up and actually participates in the exercise. You may have a supervisor that's got 30 years of experience, that's lived in this area and knows it like the back of their hand. They know where all the resources are. They know the people that they can call and tap into in extreme detail. Okay, that's probably one of your A teams that you really want to have at the time. The likelihood of that person actually being there, though, at the time of, is an iffy. So, you have to take into consideration who are the other potential supervisors. And, you may have one that has 12 years of experience, but was transferred into this location a year ago. And because of that, if you turn around and establish them in any position, I don't care if it's the incident commander or the plan section chief or logistics or anything else, they're going to be looking at this scenario different from their counterpart that has far more experience. And because of that, the exercise can go in a radically different direction. I mean, on one hand, with the one with the deep experience, they may be able to turn around and look at this and go, hey, we can take some real proactive measures, and we can do this, we can move this equipment around, do different things. The one with less experience and everything is going to have to be more conservative because they don't know what the resource base is. So their plan is going to have to reflect that. Case in, with logistics, they may know where, certain key assets are or aware of them that, again, a new person wouldn't necessarily know. I mean, that's part of it, trying to understand the process. So, it's parts of discovery, knowing where certain pieces of heavy equipment may be stashed at or that are controlled by another entity that's close by, can be critical. And again, a senior person would know that. A less experienced one, or one that's been transferred in, wouldn't. So, the nature of the outcome of the exercise is going to be hyper dependent on that personal experience, and it's also going to depend significantly on how much time is allotted. We've got this scenario set up so that the fire is about a mile and a half up the, or actually I should say down the hill, because we're looking at the fire progressing up the hill with the wind. But the reality is that, if we turn around and move that fire back to 2, maybe 3 miles, that's a significant, increase in time as far as how are they going to organize the response here. The less time they have to work with, the more they're going to have to function or focus in on the safety issues of protecting their personnel. So.
Okay. Well, speaking of people who know things, you had police and fire involved, and your person with many years' experience might know the police chief or the fire chief personally. But why is it important to have police and fire involved in an exercise for the railroad?
It's different perspectives. You're looking at an event that is not going to involve just rail on this kind of an event. It's going to end up overlapping into other jurisdictions with that are looking at this from different perspectives. You want law and fire there because they have some idea of what their respective resource bases are. You get into a rural community like this, you have assets, but they are spread out over a vast area. And in this case, we got one patrol, really literally one officer covering this, immediate jurisdiction. The principal, item in the area is actually the rail yard itself. Everything else is just kind of supplemental to it. So, their presence is going to be very limited. Once this resource is committed to something, what are you going to do then? Where are you going to get additional resources? And they're going to have an idea of how long it's going to take for backup to be able to come in and shore up what their issues are. Same with fire, same with the medical community. They're going to be able to call that out. Even when you're talking about public works, they're going to have an idea of what their respective resources bases are going to take and what their focuses are going to be on. So you want their opinions involved in this exercise so that you're not making assumptions on how long they're going to take to respond, what kind of resources they're going to be able to provide, or anything. You want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Oh, very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing some insights into doing a sand table exercise, and I hope that the people watching this will feel inspired to give it a try.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you.